When Seinfeld hit the air in 1989, it redefined television comedy forever. Dubbed a show about nothing, it followed the hilarious everyday misadventures of Jerry, George, Elaine, and Kramer, turning awkward moments into comedic gold. Created by Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David, the series became a cultural phenomenon, influencing comedy and pop culture for decades. But after the show's legendary finale in 1998, what became of the cast who made it unforgettable? In 2025, we catch up with the stars of Seinfeld, their careers, personal journeys, and how this timeless sitcom still makes audiences laugh around the world. Jerry Seinfeld was born on April 29, 1954, and stepped into the role of Jerry Seinfeld in 1989 at the age of 35, portraying a version of himself, witty, self-aware, and emotionally detached. The character was both a mirror and a mask, charmingly neurotic on-screen, but in truth, a reflection of Seinfeld's obsessive need for control. Audiences adored the clean humor, but few knew the perfectionism and isolation behind it. Growing up in a modest Jewish household in Massapequa, Long Island, Jerry endured a childhood of emotional distance. His father's business barely kept the family afloat, and his mother's cold temperament left him anxious yet desperate for approval. Early in his career, he was humiliated when fired from Benson without warning a moment that shaped his relentless pursuit of dominance in show business. Behind the laughter, Jerry developed a reputation for arrogance, refusing to improvise rewriting scenes he didn't like, and cutting ties with anyone he felt undermined his vision. The most controversial chapter came when, at 38, he began dating 17-year-old Shoshana Lonstein, igniting outrage across tabloids and late-night talk shows. He brushed off the scandal as love, but many saw it as manipulation disguised as charm. Despite his pristine public image, Jerry's private habits bordered on obsession. He cataloged jokes like stock investments, cleaned compulsively, and often refused social gatherings unless they benefited his brand. His cold professionalism strained relationships with co-stars. Insiders revealed tensions over money and creative decisions, particularly during contract renegotiations. Yet for all his flaws, Seinfeld built an empire few could match. Today, at 71, he is among the richest entertainers alive, with a staggering net worth of around $950 million. He owns a mansion in the Hamptons, an Upper West Side penthouse, and over 40 rare Porsches valued at more than $100 million. He continues to perform stand-up, producing comedians in cars getting coffee, while maintaining the same emotional distance that once made his comedy legendary and his humanity inscrutable. Jason Alexander was born on September 23, 1959, and began portraying George Costanza in 1989 at age 30, crafting one of television's most painfully human characters. George was a study in self-loathing, cheap, insecure, deceitful, and perpetually defeated. The role made Alexander famous, but it also imprisoned him inside the character's shadow. Raised in a working-class Jewish family in New Jersey, Jason's childhood was marked by ridicule over his weight and appearance. Classmates mocked him, fueling a deep inferiority complex. He turned to acting as survival, finding validation in laughter. Though Seinfeld brought global fame, Jason's perfectionism often collided with the show's creators. He felt overshadowed by Jerry and Larry David, whose writing left him feeling like a puppet. Behind the scenes, he argued for higher pay and creative credit, clashing bitterly with producers. After the series ended, Alexander's career faltered. His sitcom, Bob Patterson, was canceled within weeks, and his film projects bombed. Hollywood refused to see him as anything but George Costanza. Desperate for respect, he tried directing and Broadway revivals, but the magic never returned. Privately, he struggled with depression and frustration, often lashing out at journalists who labeled him a has-been. His marriage to Dana Title, though enduring, was strained by years of emotional distance and rumored infidelity. He admitted in interviews to feeling trapped in a character I can't escape. Though outspoken politically, his blunt opinions often sparked backlash, deepening his sense of alienation. In recent years, he found modest redemption in theater voice work and activism, but his fame never matched its former height. Now 66, he maintains a net worth of about $50 million owning homes in Los Angeles and New Jersey. Despite success, Alexander remains haunted by his most famous creation, a man whose failures mirrored his own struggles for identity, acceptance, and peace in an industry that never forgave him for being ordinary. Michael Richards, born July 24, 1949, first appeared as Cosmo Kramer in Seinfeld in 1989, at age 40, transforming chaos into art. Kramer was magnetic, bizarre, unpredictable, and free, but the man behind the laughter was tormented by insecurity rage and a lifelong fear of irrelevance. Richards grew up in California in a fractured family. His father's death in a car crash when he was 2 left a void he never filled. His mother worked multiple jobs, leaving him emotionally neglected, while classmates mocked his awkwardness and isolation. Acting became both escape and armor. Before Seinfeld, he was fired from Fridays after a violent on-set argument, a foreshadowing of the volatility that would define his reputation. On Seinfeld, his meticulous perfectionism became legendary. He timed entrances to the millisecond and berated crew members for tiny mistakes. Beneath the laughter, Richards was consumed by paranoia, convinced his co-stars were undermining him. The breaking point came in 2006 when, performing stand-up, he exploded into a racist tirade against hecklers, shouting racial slurs that destroyed his career overnight. The footage spread like wildfire, and his reputation collapsed within days. Friends described him as a man broken by shame. He withdrew from Hollywood, turning to meditation and obscure art projects to escape public scorn. Even his wife, actress Beth Skip, endured years of his reclusiveness and guilt-ridden mood swings. Attempts at redemption failed. Audiences refused to forgive. Behind closed doors, he lived quietly, but haunted, obsessed with what he lost. Now, 76, Richards resides in Southern California, rarely appearing in public. His estimated $30 million net worth comes almost entirely from Seinfeld royalties, the last remnant of a career once defined by genius and now remembered for implosion. He remains a cautionary figure, a man whose brilliance burned too hot, consumed by the very darkness that once fueled his comedy. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was born on January 13, 1961, in Manhattan, New York City, making her 29 when she first appeared as Elaine Benes in Seinfeld in 1990. Elaine was clever, abrasive, sensual, and unapologetically self-serving, a rare female archetype who thrived in the same neurotic chaos as her male counterparts. Audiences loved her sharp wit and emotional unpredictability, but Julia's connection to Elaine was far more personal than fans realized. She grew up in privilege as the daughter of billionaire businessman Gérard Louis Dreyfus, yet her childhood was emotionally fractured. Her parents' bitter divorce and her father's emotional distance left her with a deep sense of inadequacy. She hid behind humor to survive, channeling that pain into performance. Despite early fame on Saturday Night Live, she was quietly dismissed from the show, mocked for being too serious for comedy. Her climb back was brutal: failed sitcoms, toxic producers, and a long battle against typecasting. She often clashed with male executives who minimized her input, developing a reputation for being difficult, though it was only because she refused to be patronized. The biggest blow came when her post-Seinfeld series Watching Ellie was canceled, leading tabloids to call her a one-hit wonder. Off-screen, Julia's marriage to writer Brad Hall was tested by her fame-long separations and her struggle to find identity beyond comedy. When she was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2017, she confronted mortality with the same sharp defiance that made Elaine iconic, transforming her illness into activism for healthcare access. Now 64, Julia is alive and thriving, worth approximately $250 million. Her empire includes real estate in Santa Barbara, lucrative royalties from Seinfeld syndication, and later triumphs in Veep and Marvel films. Yet beneath the glamour, she remains haunted by the feeling that every laugh comes at the cost of something she once lost. Wayne Knight was born on August 7, 1955, in New York City, and was 37 when he debuted as Newman in Seinfeld in 1992. Newman was the conniving, manipulative mailman whose blend of sleaze and charm made him Jerry's perfect nemesis. His exaggerated expressions and venomous delivery turned him into one of sitcom history's most distinctive villains. But Wayne's real life bore striking contrasts to his comedic persona. Raised in a conservative Catholic household in Georgia, he grew up burdened by insecurity, battling weight issues, and his father's disapproval of acting. Before Seinfeld, he endured years of rejection, struggling to pay rent, and working odd jobs, including a brief, humiliating stint as a private investigator. Fame arrived suddenly, but with it came chaos. Wayne became addicted to alcohol and suffered gambling losses that nearly bankrupted him. His marriage to makeup artist Paula Sutor dissolved amid rumors of infidelity and explosive fights. On set, he was known for volatility, brilliant in performance but prone to temper when scenes didn't go his way. The biggest career blow came after Seinfeld ended. He was typecast as Newman and found serious roles slipping away. A fake online death rumor in 2014 went viral, forcing him to confront how fragile fame had become. That same year, he survived a serious car accident that left him briefly hospitalized, after which he quietly retreated from public life. Though his career revived slightly through voice acting in Disney and DreamWorks projects, Wayne's relationship with Hollywood remained strained. As of 2025, at age 70, he lives a quieter life in California, with his second wife, Claire Deschêneau, maintaining a net worth of around $8 million. Behind the laughter and iconic lines, Wayne Knight remains a man defined by duality, beloved as comedy's eternal villain, but forever shadowed by the loneliness of being remembered only as Newman. Estelle Harris was born on April 22, 1928, in New York City, and was 64 when she joined Seinfeld in 1992 as Estelle Costanza, the eternally exasperated high-pitched mother of George. Estelle's voice was a weapon of chaos, an unforgettable mix of shriek and sorrow that became one of sitcom history's most recognizable sounds. On screen, she was a hurricane of overbearing maternal energy, but behind the laughter was a woman forged by hardship. Growing up the daughter of Polish immigrants during the Great Depression, she endured relentless poverty and humiliation. Her family struggled to keep food on the table, and young Estelle often mocked for her accent, and frizzy hair developed humor as armor. She spent her early adult years in anonymity, working in small theaters and raising children, her acting dreams dismissed as unrealistic. Fame arrived late and suddenly, but it came with its own burdens. Castmates often described her as unpredictable and fiercely protective of her character, refusing to be portrayed as merely a joke. Her temper on set was legendary. During one heated argument about a scene, she stormed out of rehearsal and locked herself in her dressing room for hours. Yet her passion was genuine. She saw herself in Estelle Costanza, loud, loving, desperate to be heard. Off-screen, her personal life was turbulent. Her son's battle with addiction and legal issues haunted her for decades, causing estrangement and guilt. Despite public perception, Estelle was deeply private, struggling with chronic anxiety and insomnia, often staying awake for nights before a shoot. Her marriage to Cy Harris lasted over 60 years, an imperfect but enduring union marked by loyalty through chaos. Estelle died peacefully on April 2, 2022 in Palm Desert, California, at age 93, leaving behind an estate worth approximately $5 million from decades of commercials and voice work, most famously as Mrs. Potato Head in Toy Story. Though her shrill voice once symbolized frustration, it now stands as a defiant anthem for women who refused to be silenced. Richard Hurd was born on September 26, 1932, in Boston, Massachusetts, and appeared in Seinfeld in 1995 at age 63 as Mr. Wilhelm George Costanza's clueless, neurotic, and erratic boss at the New York Yankees. His character symbolized the absurdity of corporate bureaucracy, an eccentric man trapped in his own confusion, unknowingly dragging George into ridiculous schemes. Hurd's childhood was steeped in struggle. Raised during wartime by strict, emotionally distant parents, he often described feeling like a ghost at home. His artistic instincts were suppressed by his father, who wanted him to pursue a military career. Early in his acting journey, Hurd faced constant rejection and financial ruin, often sleeping in his car or living on borrowed money. He battled alcoholism through the 1970s, which cost him several roles and contributed to the collapse of his first marriage. On set, he was known for his sharp intellect and occasional temper, clashing with directors who underestimated him. One of his biggest professional disappointments came in the mid-1980s, when he was abruptly fired from a Broadway revival after standing up for underpaid cast members, a moment that blacklisted him from major stage productions for years. Despite his calm public persona, Hurd carried decades of resentment toward Hollywood's superficiality, often saying it ate integrity for breakfast. Off-screen, his life remained turbulent. He divorced twice before finding stability in his final marriage, though he privately grieved the estrangement of one of his children. In later years, he became a vocal advocate for veterans' rights, trying to find purpose beyond the fading spotlight. Hurd succumbed to complications from colon cancer on May 26, 2020 in Los Angeles at age 87. His estate, largely consisting of a modest Los Angeles home film royalties and art pieces he collected over decades, was valued at around $2 million. Though his fortune was modest, his resilience and authenticity left a lasting impression far greater than fame itself. Len Lesser was born on December 3, 1922, in the Bronx, New York, and joined Seinfeld in 1991 at age 69 as Uncle Leo Jerry's loud, meddlesome, and hilariously guilt-tripping uncle, whose booming hello became one of the show's most unforgettable catchphrases. The character embodied the overbearing yet oddly lovable older relative that everyone both dreads and adores, giving the series one of its most recognizable comic dynamics. Lesser's early life was marked by hardship. Born to a poor Jewish family during the Depression, he grew up surrounded by scarcity and ridicule, often teased for his small frame and shy demeanor. As a young man, he concealed deep insecurity behind a sharp wit and an eagerness to please, a trait that later defined both his acting style and personal struggles. After serving in World War II, he spent decades scraping by in Hollywood, doing odd jobs and bit parts, while silently resenting the industry's nepotism. Though beloved on Seinfeld behind the scenes, Lesser was known to obsessively rehearse lines, sometimes irritating co-stars with his perfectionism and his habit of repeating takes far beyond the director's call. His biggest heartbreak came from a failed attempt to direct his own play in the 1970s, which flopped disastrously and drained his savings, leaving him financially unstable for years. Personally, Lesser endured a lonely existence. His marriage to Jan Elizabeth Dorian ended bitterly, and he never remarried, living mostly in modest apartments filled with scripts and old photographs. He rarely spoke about his quiet battle with depression and his growing frustration over being typecast as the old man. Despite all that, his dedication never waned, and he worked until illness made it impossible. He died on February 16, 2011, at age 88 in Burbank, California, from pneumonia caused by cancer. At his death, his estate, mainly a small home, modest investments, and lifetime union royalties, was valued around $1 million. Though his wealth was limited, his influence as one of television's most memorable uncles remains priceless. Heidi Swedberg was born on March 3, 1966, in Honolulu, Hawaii, making her 26 when she first appeared as Susan Ross in Seinfeld in 1992. As George Costanza's fiancée, Susan was intelligent, composed, and eager to please, the calm opposite of George's neurotic instability. Her tragic death after licking toxic wedding envelopes became one of the show's darkest and most shocking jokes, a moment that still defines Seinfeld's unapologetic humor. Yet behind that laughter was a quieter story of tension and alienation. Heidi, raised in a strict military family, grew up constantly relocating, which left her withdrawn and overly self-reliant. She was teased as a child for being too serious, masking her insecurities behind a polite smile. In Hollywood, her delicate nature clashed with the industry's sharp edges. Before Seinfeld, she had spent nearly a decade auditioning for bit parts, scraping by on theater gigs and low-paying commercials. When she finally landed the role of Susan, she thought her breakthrough had come. But the set soon turned cold. Jason Alexander later revealed their comedic timing didn't mesh sparking rumors that other cast members pushed for her removal. Her character's death wasn't just scripted irony, it mirrored her professional exile. After the series, Swedberg faced casting rejections, typecast as that dead fiancé, leading to years of obscurity. She battled depression and anxiety, withdrawing from acting entirely in 2010. Her marriage crumbled quietly, leaving her to rebuild through music, forming her ukulele band, the Suki Jump Band, where she found fleeting peace performing for children. Today, at 59, she lives a minimalist life in Los Angeles, teaching music and performing at local festivals. Her estimated net worth of $300,000 reflects her rejection of Hollywood's artificial glamour. A woman once discarded by fame, now at ease in simplicity, her past tragedy transformed into melody and healing. John O'Hurley, born October 9, 1954, in Kittery, Maine, entered Seinfeld in 1995 at age 41, as J. Peterman, the grandiloquent, mysterious catalog magnate whose flowery monologues made ordinary socks sound like treasures from the Himalayas. The character, a satirical take on the real-life entrepreneur, became an instant icon, and O'Hurley's booming voice and theatrical diction gave Seinfeld one of its most distinctive figures. Yet behind the humor was a man shaped by restraint and tragedy. Raised in a devoutly Catholic family, John's early years were haunted by the death of his sister, which left an emotional scar he rarely discussed. He turned his grief into perfectionism, mastering classical piano, Shakespearean acting, and public speaking, but this obsession made him difficult to work with. In his early career, he faced repeated rejections, once being told he was too polished and unrelatable for television. He drifted through soap operas and commercials, until Seinfeld transformed him overnight. Fame, however, came with tension. He was known to challenge directors over line delivery, often rewriting monologues to his liking. Off-camera, his reputation oscillated between brilliant and arrogant. His biggest career setback came when he was abruptly replaced as host of Family Feud, after revamping it successfully, a decision he publicly blasted as cowardly and commercial. In his personal life, his first marriage to Eva LaRue ended amid rumors of controlling behavior and artistic jealousy. He later remarried and rebuilt his image as a gentleman performer, author, and businessman, even investing in the revived J. Peterman Company. O'Hurley's current life balances luxury and introspection. He lives between Los Angeles and Maine, with his wife and son continuing to perform symphony concerts and voice roles. At 71, his fortune of about $12 million reflects decades of relentless reinvention discipline and an almost obsessive desire to control his own narrative, a polished mask concealing the insecurity that drove him to perfection. Barney Martin was born on March 3, 1923, in New York City, and at 68 he first appeared as Morty Seinfeld in 1991, the thrifty, cranky, and hilariously opinionated father who battled condo boards and railed against injustice with old-school fury. Morty embodied the archetype of the stubborn patriarch whose moral rigidity and penny-pinching antics gave Seinfeld its touch of generational humor. But behind that comedic bluster lay the life of a man who had already lived several careers before fame found him. The son of Irish immigrants, Barney endured the Great Depression in a cramped Brooklyn apartment, where survival was a daily battle. He joined the U.S. Air Force during World War II, flying dangerous missions as a navigator before returning to a post-war New York that offered little comfort. Seeking stability, he joined the NYPD and spent years investigating brutal crimes, a job that left him hardened but witty. The darkness of what he witnessed there pushed him toward comedy, an act of defiance against despair. He began moonlighting as a joke writer for stand-up acts before stepping into performance himself. Acting became therapy, but Hollywood's glossy culture didn't know what to make of him. He was fired from early roles for being too authentic, and his sharp New York humor made directors uneasy. Still, he persevered, becoming a reliable character actor, often unpaid between gigs. His marriage to Catherine was his emotional anchor, and her death later left him inconsolable. He withdrew from public life, battling bladder cancer, quietly refusing sympathy. There were no scandals, but there was melancholy, a lifetime of resilience, shadowed by loss. When he died on March 21, 2005, at 82 in Studio City, California, his estate was worth about $1.5 million, modest compared to his contribution to television. Yet his colleagues remembered him not as a sitcom dad, but as the soul of a bygone New York brave, brash, and unfiltered, a man who turned pain into laughter and never once betrayed his working-class roots. Jerry Stiller was born on June 8, 1927 in New York City, and was 66 when he joined Seinfeld in 1993 as Frank Costanza, the volcanic eccentric patriarch whose unfiltered rants defined the show's manic brilliance. Frank was a man of contradictions, furious yet lovable, absurd yet relatable, and Jerry's performance transformed him into one of television's most unforgettable fathers. But that manic energy had roots in a turbulent life. Raised in a poor Jewish family during the Great Depression, Jerry's childhood was a collage of hardship, cramped apartments, absent father and a mother battling emotional instability. He used humor as escape, performing skits in tenement basements before discovering theater. His rise was slow and grueling. After studying drama, he spent decades hustling for roles that barely paid the rent. The comedy duo Stiller and Miara, formed with his wife Ann, brought them fame in the 1960s, but fame faded fast, and by the late 70s they were nearly broke. Jerry spiraled into depression and heavy drinking, his career seemingly over. Then Seinfeld revived him, yet his passion often spilled into intensity. Co-stars recalled how he would improvise, wildly shout through takes, and insist on rewriting lines to make them sting. His temper was real, but so was his genius. Off-screen, his marriage to Ann was both stormy and legendary, filled with jealousy, creative battles, and profound love. Her death in 2015 devastated him. He withdrew from public life, his humor dimmed by loss. Despite his failing health, he continued voice work from his apartment, recording lines in a trembling voice. Jerry Stiller died on May 11, 2020 in Manhattan at age 92 from natural causes, surrounded by family. His estate, valued at around $14 million, stands as a monument to endurance, a man who turned rage into art and tragedy into laughter, his thunderous voice echoing long after the curtain fell. Richard Fancy was born on August 2, 1943, in Evanston, Illinois, and joined Seinfeld in 1991 at age 48 as Mr. Lipman, Elaine Beans's stoic, business-minded boss at Pendant Publishing. His portrayal of the no-nonsense publisher, equal parts intimidating and oddly endearing, gave the show's workplace scenes a touch of real-world gravity amidst its absurd humor. Fancy's early years were far from glamorous. He lost his father at a young age and was raised by a mother struggling with mental illness, leading to a childhood filled with instability, emotional neglect, and financial hardship. He was bullied for his quietness and awkward speech, but found escape in theater, where he could reinvent himself. Before fame, Fancy juggled odd jobs as a janitor, cab driver, and bartender, often on the brink of eviction while chasing auditions. Hollywood was merciless, he was told repeatedly. He was too plain for leading roles. The 1980s nearly broke him, when a failed television pilot he invested in left him bankrupt and disillusioned. His salvation came through Seinfeld, which revived his confidence and earned him steady respect. However, he remained a man haunted by loneliness and disappointment. Behind his calm demeanor, friends described him as deeply introspective, sometimes vanishing for weeks to escape public life. His long marriage to Nancy rarely made headlines, but insiders claimed years of quiet tension as his career consumed him. Fancy also faced recurring health scares in his 60s that forced him to step away from acting temporarily. Despite these setbacks, he rebuilt a modest but comfortable life, teaching acting in small Los Angeles studios and mentoring young performers. Now, 82, he lives quietly in California, preferring solitude and reflection over fame. His assets, including a modest home pension funds and television residuals, are valued at around $1 million. Though never a celebrity in the traditional sense, Richard Fancy's life tells the story of endurance, dignity, and quiet rebellion against Hollywood's fleeting glory. Thank you for joining us on this nostalgic journey through classic television history. If you enjoyed learning about the cast of Seinfeld and where they are now, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more vintage Hollywood retrospectives, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing your memories and suggestions, so let us know which TV show or movie cast you'd like us to feature next.